Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. It's me, Angela McCrae. I'm the founder of Uncorked and Cultured. I'm here on a Friday. Woo! April has been a busy week. Oh, hold up. Something. There we go. I have my speaker on. So this week has been crazy, right? I mean, so much news, right? We had the Derek Chauvin case, that's come out. He's found guilty 3 times. We've had so many men in our community pass away, at 50. It's like so it's just been a lot on my spirit to really just think about the importance of, being there, for men, for Black men in our communities. And I know we've talked about this in the past, just, showing up and understanding, how vulnerable our community is, especially during this time with all the lives that's been lost. But so I just want to kind of acknowledge that and, send prayers and love and flowers to the men in my life and to the men that aren't in my life that struggle, because I know it has to be hard on your spirit and mental, during this past week. So I just want to acknowledge that on this Friday. And, to kind of segue this, I think it's important to kind of mention how the woman's role, especially as Black women, our role when it comes to, our role in a community and family and friendship, just being matriarchs, and supportive. And so, I have a good friend, a friend of mine who we met back in the day when we were both working at NBC Universal. We're no longer working there anymore. We've moved on to bigger and better entrepreneurial things. But she just released her first book called Rise of a Good Woman. So I'm going to bring her on. Stacy Lloyd, welcome to Uncorked and Cultured.
Hey, sweetheart.
How are you? I love your smile, that beautiful smile. I miss it.
Thank you. Ditto. I am well. I'm well. A little chilly, but well. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me too.
Of course. So, okay, tell me, like, you've got some exciting stuff on the horizon. I mean, you have your new book, your first book, right?
Yeah, first published book. I've written 3 others, but this is the first published book. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. And I just want people to know that this, if you guys are interested in learning more, make sure you follow Stacy. Her book is Rise of the Good Woman. You could follow it on Instagram. Also, you could go to the website, right? You have a website that we could purchase the book.
Yeah. I know that well, there you go. I was like, I know you're going to have it at the end. The website, MissStacyLloyd.com. There's a shop where you can buy merchandising as well as the actual book. It's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million.
Awesome. So tell us about it. What inspired this journey for you to share with us?
Yeah, so it actually started off as an ambitious goal to get married in a year. So at the top of every year, I know it sounds so crazy. At the top of every year, I do these list of goals. And so on my spiritual list, oddly, this is where this landed when I turned 38. I'm not 38 currently, but when I turned 38, I had this ambitious goal to get married in a year. And as a part of the steps to that goal was to read Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31, which talks about a noble, good woman. And so I initially read it. Mind you, I've read it many times before, but I was confused as to how I was going to apply this to my life, how I applied and figure out how to become and embody this woman and these characteristics. And so I prayed about it, and God literally gave me chapter titles. And by then, this is like my 4th book. So I was kind of already, just in that place where I was just asking and searching. And so, when I got the titles, I initially just started off as a checklist. I didn't think it was going to be a book. And I had shared it with my sister and a couple of close friends. And they're like, I think this is another book. And so I prayed about it again. And sure enough, it was a book. So I just broke it down, dissected it. There's just so many principles, techniques, and tips in there. You'd be surprised if you read the passage, you might not understand, again, how you can apply it now. But with today's technology, it is so possible, because I looked at this chick as being a unicorn, but no longer do I think of her as a unicorn. I know that I already embody so many characteristics
Mm-hmm.
And I know women around me do. I think it's just that we just need to know that it's possible. So that's the reason why it's called Rise of the Good Woman, is because
Mm.
it's a call to action to rise. It's a call to action for the goodness in all of us to rise. And then by us rising, and as segued into me talking about our men, as we rise, then they're going to rise too, right? So the objective is, start with the women. I know women, right? Um, and so it's like if we rise and we raise the standards and we get back to some good things that we used to do, because I think we're just chaotic. I think we're chaotic as melanated people, but I think as a world we're really chaotic too. I can obviously speak from a melanated perspective, but we live in a big ball of chaos, and I think that if we just allowed, because again, there's goodness in all of us. If we just allow the goodness to come through, I really believe that we'd be in a better place. And so this is a self-help book. Although it's scripturally and spiritually based, I'm certainly pointing people to God. There's no doubt about that. That's kind of the under theme. But it really is about you becoming a better person. And to me, the only way to really do that is the vertical relationship. And so, but it's not in your face. So that's the reason why it's a self-help. And it's a 22-day guide to becoming a better you. So it's not that you're not good. It's just you're going to be better by the time you read it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now you said a few things that I wanted to touch on. You talked about, us being in a chaotic state, not just from as melanated people, but you also mentioned as just in the world right now, right? I mean, we've been literally in isolation for over a year now. The world is starting to open up, but a lot of people are still scared. A lot of people are still waiting to get vaccinated. A lot of people are scared to get vaccinated. A lot of people are scared to leave their homes. They don't want to be around people. Social anxieties are growing. And so I think one of the things that I felt would be a great start as we develop into this conversation, because we want to, we're going to talk about a few things. But when we talk about a good woman, I think one of the things I wrote on social media was, can you be bad and bougie and a good woman? You know what I mean? Like, is it one or the other? Is it, can you be both? And so, what does a good woman mean from your individual perspective versus like what society might have mandated on us, maybe through the patriarch or maybe through the white gaze?
Yeah. So to me, God is good. I will say that. All right. But I'm not going to go all the way down that road. Okay. I believe that we each have the capability, right, to choose to be good or not. And I believe that each individual knows. I believe that morally, when you're doing something wrong, like, it's not good to steal, right? Right. It's not good to lie, right?
Right.
You feel it on the inside, and when you're doing something that's, and I always tell, especially my close friends, I say, if you feel that, then you should go the other way. That is that intuition. It's something on the inside telling you that, hey, something's not right. I'm about to do something wrong. And so there's something on the inside, and regardless of where your relationship is with the higher power, that goodness is giving you, aha, don't do that. It's giving you a beware. And so that to me, that's what's good, is really listening to your intuition, is listening to the inside and the core of you, because I really believe that to be opposite of good takes a lot more effort to me. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot more energy to be angry. It takes a lot more energy to be bad. It takes a lot more energy to me to be, and when it comes to frequency, like lower vibration. When you're low vibration, it takes a lot of energy. To me, when you're high, you're floating. You're in the things. You're up. Like,
right.
It's right. Like it's like this high. So to me, it's easy to be up there. But it takes more effort to to be the opposite. And so we could call it good versus evil. You could get into the this versus that of it. But to me, one, this is good. That higher source is good. But in all of us, there's that goodness that we just have to tap into more than we don't. We have the choice every day.
Right. So just so I'm just clear, and just so everybody else is clear. So pretty much you're saying is that it's making the cognizant intention of setting your day-to-day, setting your life intention to choose to be good as a woman, right?
Correct.
And so, I think sometimes when we kind of come to that crossroads of decision making, right? Mm-hmm. You have the scarcity mindset, you have the abundant mindset. You know what I mean? You have the trauma triggers, you have the I haven't really been through much triggers. You know what I mean? The entitled kind of like, so there's so many different layers that come into play, because a lot of the stuff is kind of, subjective, right? Like everybody's experiences are different.
Right.
And so, I made the joke of the bad and bougie versus a good woman, because I felt like that's the culture we're in, right? Bad bitches, you know what I mean? Hoes be winning. That was the whole thing just a few, years ago, that Angela Yee coined on the Breakfast Club. So, I mean, when you were going through your journey, like, was this something that you kind of had to deal with, or was it something that it wasn't even on your radar?
Well, how can I answer that? Because I want to be tasteful in the way that I say it. Because I don't want to offend anybody, right? Because I feel like, let me preface my statement by, there's a time and a place for everything. And I believe that there's a time and a place where you could be, and by bad, I mean, because we know bad and bougie is like,
I'm fly, I got it going on.
Yeah, it's like diva-esque. And I think there's an appropriate time to wear, a contour dress, right? There's an appropriate place to wear a contouring dress. There's a tasteful way to do that, right? There's a tasteful way to dance and twerk, and I don't know that we all need to see it, right? I just think that the way in which our society is, and because we're social media driven, if you will, there's just a lot of, it just gets really dicey when there's just certain things we don't need to see. Not everything needs to be public. So I think part of it is the privacy of it.
Okay.
I think it's fine to be bad and bougie. But I feel like your version of bad and bougie may be different than my version of bad and bougie. I have some contouring dresses in there, but I'm sexy and classy.
Oh, okay. I've seen you. We got some pictures of you being sexy now.
So there is a time and a place. There is a time and a place for everything. But I bet, we live in a society where sometimes I go on social, I manage a couple accounts, and, I see nips, I see areolas, see-through dresses. I see women's booty cheeks. I mean, and we grew up in the era of Daisy Dukes. I get it. But there's also a time and a place, and there's a tasteful way to do it. And I don't know that that's everything that we need to see of you. There needs to be some privacy that goes along with it. And for me, in my journey, I've always just looked at and gone into things with the mindset of, hey, where am I going? Who's going to be there? And how am I representing not only myself, but how am I representing my culture? How am I representing my family? I'm a Lloyd, right? So when I go somewhere, I'm representing the whole lineage of Lloyds.
Yes.
So yes. I'm representing my sisters. I have 6 sisters. Excuse me. Yes. Sorry. 5 sisters. There's 8. But I have 5 sisters. And so even like in our hometown, I'm the oldest of those girls. And so, the community's perception of Lloyd women is based upon how I conduct myself. So I think it's really about where you're going, and the fact that where you're going, is it appropriate, what I'm wearing or how I'm representing myself.
Absolutely.
And you're not only representing yourself, you're representing all those affiliated with you, right? That includes your family, that includes your culture, right? That includes your city sometimes. You represent for a city. Well, I know we're going to get into travel, but I travel a lot. I had an Airbnb in Vermont or somewhere, And that was the first time that these white people really had any real true interaction with a Black person, especially in their Airbnb. But the way that I conducted myself changed their perception of my culture, of me as a female traveler. So again, it's about where you're going, and understanding what is appropriate for where you're going, in addition to how you're representing yourself and representing your family and or those that you're affiliated with.
No, I think that's well said, because I felt like when I was growing up, I was born in the 70s. All right. I'm just going to put it out there.
You and me both.
All right. I was born in the 70s. So, it was a lot of Puritan culture happening in the 80s and 90s, but, I didn't necessarily grow up in that. Right. But I did grow up being super self-conscious of how I looked, how I was perceived. And that came from in the Black community, where I grew up in a Black community, as well as attending a HBCU, to then my journey across to Los Angeles, as the only Black woman sometimes in the room in my office, whether it was, concerned about my hair, I've always kind of been heavy chested. So like, trying to minimize that, or not really knowing, that, oh, this might be a distraction for some people, and wearing things, not even trying to be sexy, but it just comes across that way, right? Because men are going to be men. and I think one of the things that I do notice that I wanted to ask you is that a lot of women are talking about, like, why should women hide? Why should we, do these things? Because men need to control themselves. It's this whole, feminist kind of dialogue that comes along, especially nowadays. It's way more powerful now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's way more unapologetic. And so I guess the question I'm trying to frame here is, as we kind of make those decisions for ourselves and be cognizant of it, when does it come to a place of like self-expression, you know what I mean? And like self-expression, but then also just like, I don't know, because, getting to being in a space of, like you said, it's a time for everything. Right? It's a time for everything. So yeah, if I'm going, like, Freaknik was a thing when we were in high school, right? So there's nobody's, but I'm sure good women were at Freaknik because that was a thing to do and they didn't know what to expect. And, who knows, right? But it's like, but when you go into these environments, it's like, how do you, feel comfortable and prepare yourself to still be yourself and express what you want to be, but then also kind of be mindful?
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with confidence. I talk about that in the book. It's knowing that you know that you know.
I love that.
That you're the shiz, right? And I believe that I still believe that self-expression can still be classy. And I say that because, granted, when you're at a day party, when you're at a picnic, of course you're going to wear shorts, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I think if we would collectively get into the mindset of, hey, I want to know what I'm working with, right? With confidence, right? And confidence really is on the inside, right?
Absolutely.
It oozes from the outside. And it's the display when you see a woman walk confidently.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we would get in the mindset of, would my spouse, and some spouses might go for it, or my future spouse, would I be disrespecting him in any way by wearing this?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I disrespecting myself, more importantly?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I was in college during the last phase of Freaknik, and I have quite a traumatic and horror story about that because I actually got attacked.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
It was crazy, but literally like sexually assaulted and almost gang raped, and I was appropriately dressed. So when we talk about the notion of she was wearing this, so she was asking for it, I despise that. I despise that because you could be fully dressed and it's still something happened to you. Mm-hmm. And so without getting on that story, my point is that are you respecting yourself? And are you respecting the people around you? And are you respecting those who aren't around you and those connected to you, i.e. is that a boyfriend, or is that, a spouse? Is that a future spouse? Is that, because I'm in the mindset of future spouse.
Right.
And so I think about now, like, what I wear? Would my dad approve of what I have on? And granted, I'm in my 40s, but I still think about things like that. But I'm still me, right? I love a jumpsuit. Sometimes my jumpsuits are tight, but they're tasteful. So I think it's really about self-respect and
Absolutely.
self-regard. And then if you have the self-respect, the self-love, the self-regard, then I think your choices might be a little bit different. Right?
Right. And
outside of that, then those people who are around you, I think the respect goes there too. Because I don't hang out with chicks who would be showing their nips.
Right.
That's just role, and never have. I never had that problem when I was younger or anything like that. So I think it's all about the people that you surround yourself with too. And so I hope I answered that question.
No, you did, and thank you. And I wanted to kind of segue into like self-care, because I know when it comes to self-respect, when it comes to that confidence, self-care plays a lot, of that, and you covered that in your book.
Yeah. There's a chapter, and I cover that throughout the book, but there's one chapter specifically called "Be Fruitful, Enjoy Your Fruitfulness," and it's every bit about this. I love the saying, "Work hard, play hard." I like the play hard better, but
this is me playing hard.
Where is that?
This is Thailand. This is me with 2000. I think that's 2016.
Okay.
A throwback.
I love it. Yeah. I think life is, it's, if we don't have that balance, then we're doing a disservice to ourselves. And this book is very much about balance. It very much is about, mother, husband, mother, wife, community. She's a community activist, if you will. She was an entrepreneur. She was just all these things in one. But the fruitful part of her labor, you work hard, you play hard. And a part of the playing hard is making sure that you're taking care of self. So self-care, self-respect, all of those self is all back to you.
Putting self first, yes.
Self. So if you're, the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So you have to make sure that you're refueling. And the thing of the self-respect and the self-love says, hey, I love myself enough to say no. I love myself to create the barriers and the boundaries to say, hey, hubby, somebody's going to have to watch these kids while I go, reset. And I said to you earlier, R&R, rest and relaxation, but I like rest and restoration. Resting, your body is really, it's rejuvenating itself. And so we need to restore. So think of restoring as like filling up that empty cup, right? But you got to sit back and you have to rest in order to get to the restoration, right? You can't really have one without the other. So the restoration is you pouring back into your own cup. So R&R, rest and restoration, if you will. But yeah, so I think it's very important to have that balance, in mothers, especially with families. I know some women who just make it look so easy. And there's just this balance that is unbelievable. I have a cousin in North Carolina. She's a beast. She is a beast. She's bad and bougie.
And a good woman.
I have some tennis teammates that are they are just phenomenal women. So they know how to have that balance. They know to call in the village and the troops and say, hey, all right, kiddos, you got to go over here. Because I need to restore myself. So it's extremely important. I know how to do it well, but I know how to do it well as a single person.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so speaking of like your travels and just living this fruitful life, I mean, I have some pictures of you here traveling. Do you mind if I pull them up?
Oh,
And you can kind of tell us about like some of the ways that, because you're a traveler, and if anybody goes to your Instagram, they will see your beautifully curated travels. So tell us about like how you have created a fruitful life for yourself.
Well, I am very, very intentional. I feel like in life, if you want something, if something really moves you, be it a passion or anything like that, then you have to be intentional about it. So travel is very intentional for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much a free spirit, and I feel caged in if I'm not traveling. So I make it a point, even if it's just a hour or two away, going somewhere once a month. And that was Aruba, by the way, for my sister.
Oh, I love Aruba.
Aruba is wonderful. But I make it a point every month to go somewhere outside of the city limits. And again, that could be 30 minutes, that could be an hour, 2 hours, but to escape away, to kind of, for me, it's my restoration. So you have to know what works for you. Traveling does it for me. So yeah, every month, literally, I'm very intentional about going somewhere. And so I'm a month out from when I went to I'm in Georgia. So it's called Golden Isles, which is it's the Atlantic part of Georgia, basically. And so I'm over a month. And so I just booked a cheap ticket to Miami for a few days coming up because I just get really antsy. But that's what restores me. That's the reset button for me. So I'm very intentional in doing that. Sometimes I'll plan something out. I would like to go to Jamaica before the end of the year. We'll see with how COVID is working and all of the restrictions, but I'll just have a list. And so my trip last month was on my list. I was in St. Croix in January. That was on my list. So I have a list. Sometimes I didn't plan on Miami, but sometimes it just kind of happens that way. But being intentional, that's the way that I travel, is being intentional and saying, hey, I know I need to reset once a month. I know I get really antsy, and then I get really, and it's kind of itchy, but yeah, itchy. And so I have to go. I just have to go. And so I know that. So for me, like I said, me traveling is very intentional. Sometimes it's fully planned out, and then sometimes it's super spontaneous, like the trip I have coming up. So I can't hear you. Angela, I can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Oh, it seems like I might need to charge it. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me know if you can't hear me because I just need to turn this mic off. I didn't charge it. Okay, so I tried to it might have some power to it now. So I guess what I was trying to tell you is that
I saw the picture of you. That's when the sound dropped.
Okay. So I was in South Africa. We talk about being antsy, right? And so I had a chance to, right before the pandemic, travel around Africa, as you know, because, we share our travel journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, the pain, I got a pain right here in my shoulder that the only way it's going to come out is if I get out of this damn New York City. So yes. I'm planning to travel in June. It'll be over a year. It'll be like a year and almost 6 months. So I'm definitely feel you on that. And I know I just want to thank you because you've done a 22-day challenge, right? And in which you talked about fruitfulness and how to live fruitfulness. And in that, you had a book club where you had women in this Facebook group just sharing their journey. You were kind of guiding us on this chapter by chapter, day by day journey of your book. And when it came to fruitfulness, and I know travel is part of it, but there's more to that. Can you kind of tap into a little bit of what that chapter means to you and what inspired that?
Yeah. So the travel was a big component, because it's funny because as I was kind of looking at the way that the book was going, because again, I got the chapter titles, I call them downloads from God. It's a little weird, but I think that especially creatives can understand me when they're in this zone. So I was in this zone and again, getting these chapter titles. And when it came down to break them down, um, and looking at kind of the journey of the 22 days. And once I got to that chapter 19, I was like, something's missing. And so travel to me was what was missing from the book. But in addition to that, enjoying your fruitfulness is again that we do a lot, especially working mothers, and women who are taking care of other people, if you will, who are nurturing other people, have a lot on their plates. And it is very much about making sure that as natural nurturers, because that is how we were designed. We're designed to be nurturers, we're designed to be creative, that we need that time. We just need that time. And so self-care really looks different ways. For me, self-care is an everyday thing. It's not about hitting a reset button once a month, more than it is that making sure that, I'm meditating and I have some quiet time, that I'm reading something that's enriching to me, that I can, either help other people as a result, or I'm learning, and building myself up at the same time. Now, I'm all for people who read, romance novels or leisure things. Some people love magazines and news articles and whatever. So whatever works for you. For me, I'm very much in how can I feed myself, self-improvement, all the self-help stuff I can get myself, my hands into onto, you know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, books about mindfulness, etc. So, but it is very much about, really making sure that you are pouring back into yourself.
Back to that.
That restoration, that you're filling your tank up, and what does that mean for you individually? And that's different for everyone. Some people, it's going to get manicures and pedicures. That's going to get your hair done. I'm all for it. I tend, some reason, not to really relax while I'm getting a mani and a pedi. So that's not a self-care thing for me. That's more of a just maintenance thing.
Right.
Some reason I just can't let my mind still, very rarely. So I don't look at that as being self-care for me, but self-care is going for a walk, right? Self-care is wellness for me. Self-care is working out. Self-care is, not watching the news so much, because it's
that part, especially now.
Yeah, it's gloom and doom. It doesn't mean that I'm not a resource for information, or I don't know what's going on, right? But it just means that I can't inundate myself with it. So self-care to me is not being around negative energy.
Okay.
Self-care is, protecting my space and my boundaries. So those are all things that encompass self. So you have to figure out, like, what your triggers are, and then do,
right.
protect yourself from that, right? And do the opposite. So if you go over here and you're triggered by, like, for instance, I'm not married yet. And on Saturdays, sometimes if I go out, all I see is couples. And so I get a little triggered sometimes because I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I have to either figure out a way. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm good, because I'm writing this single thing till the wheels come off. I'm enjoying the freedom and the space, so I have to switch it.
Right.
But I also know that there's certain places I can't go because it may trigger a thought or woe is me type of whatever attitude or energy. And I have to figure out what is it going to take for me to switch that and reverse it and say, oh, okay, well, thank God that I'm being fruitful in my singleness.
So one of the things you mentioned earlier was this us being creative, and of course how that can trigger fruitfulness, right? And so I know you had a chapter, I think chapter 15, and I want to show this quick clip so that you can kind of give us context on what chapter 15 is about.
Oh yeah.
Hello, it's day 15. And what are we going to do? We are going to own our own business and be a boss lady.
I thought that was cute. And I wanted to as an entrepreneur, you know what I mean? I mean, it's so important because so many Black women are leading the entrepreneurial efforts here in the country. And there's been so much support, so many resources available to us. It's like a sisterhood of some sort, right? And I think for me, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, even while balancing a full-time job. I mean, we met at NBC Universal. I was doing, work on the side. And so, this chapter resonated with me personally because, I'm a full-time entrepreneur now. and so just, let us know, like, when it comes to that being a part of Rise of the Good Woman, like, how does entrepreneurship play into that?
Yeah, well, this woman, I mean, she was solid, hands down. But I think, and I'm gonna give kudos to the men who in a healthy and ideal situation, right? Who hold it down. I'm not saying that there aren't women who make more than their husbands, and there's some different dynamics there, and I total respect to all of that. I think that it's a lot easier when you have to be an entrepreneur, when you have additional income coming in to hold things down for things like, rent and mortgage and things like that. So I do want to say that some of the reason why there's an influx of women entrepreneurs are because there are men that are helping in those efforts. So I'm just gonna.
I wish I had a man helping in my efforts, and I don't know. I don't know. It's a lot. I mean, I'm not trying to challenge you, Stacy, but I just want to speak my reality.
No. We're definitely in the same reality. Don't get it twisted.
And I'm going to be honest with you, Tracy. Stacey, I'm going to be honest with you, Stacy. This wine's starting to get to me a little bit. Most of the women I know that I've met that are entrepreneurs are almost kind of like forced into it. It's like almost like it's like because they need a supplemental income, right? Because they are at home alone, right? Or they're taking care of their children alone. And I know that's not everybody's story. There's a lot of amazing couples that are doing entrepreneurship together. Yeah. But when I read that chapter and when I just looked at my life, I just was, feeding into the women that I know that are doing it alone. And I actually, I don't know if you saw Rashawn's keynote speech today at the Moby conference.
I did.
And, he mentioned the Black woman's role specifically in the family and how it's different than other women.
I think I might have missed that part. So break it down for everybody.
Oh, okay. So the breakdown, I ain't gonna be able to break it down as well as he did, but the gist of what he was saying is it's how like Black women, the role in the household, and when it comes to having that entrepreneurial spirit, and that's something that Black women have always been innate in Black women, but it's just now more recently that they're actually excelling and actually getting access to the resources of entrepreneurship, right? The leadership roles in corporate America. You see every other month, you see a new Black woman being a president of a Fortune 500 company, for the first time in American history. You know what I mean? You're seeing these things, and and of course, as a Black woman, I celebrate them, and I celebrate each and every one of us. And so I guess my biggest challenge, and this is just me being empathetic, is how does the impact of the success of Black women, how does that impact Black men? when you talk about, rise of the good woman and being that spouse?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. We there's a chapter in the book called "Set the Tone," and we flat out set the tone.
Okay.
We are. How do I want to say it? We're the we're the canal that brings forth life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are so intricate in the fabric of humanity that you can't, nothing can, you can't be born without coming through a woman, right?
Right.
So I think when we really tap into the power that we possess just by being women, being female, that will automatically, like, the respect level one for ourselves. And the men just really don't even have a choice once there's that self-respect there and that self-love. And I talk about that in Know Your Worth, the chapter Know Your Worth. But we're powerful beyond belief. I don't even know we understand our power and how intricate it is to the fabric of humanity. To ourselves as women, as sisters, as a village of women, collectively, and helping each other, just the way that you've been so intricate in helping me out. I mean, since we met each other, we vibed like off the rip. You've always been a huge resource for me. And then I try to do the same for other women as well. And again, so there's that the power that we possess to help each other out as sisters, and as a village of sisters, if you will. But then how we help our men, whether they're our husbands or our brothers or just the men in our community, by being ourselves and being who we are and embodying what it means to be a female. And that's the reason why, we talked a little bit about the self-respect and self-regard and, the bad and bougie concept. And if we could collectively get on the same level as sisters, then the men would have to comply, if you will. I have a better way to say it. And not in a domineering way, right? As we are, getting to the C-suite quicker than men, especially our from a melanated standpoint, especially as our faster than our male counterparts, if you will. We're certainly, of course, doing and rocking the entrepreneurship. I too was forced into it. But I think that, how do I want to say this? I think that, again, once we tap into that power, right, of being us and being feminine and realizing how and why God created us, the more we can level set and create that standard for the men to understand it and respect it as well. But it's got to start with us. It's got to start with that sisterhood. It's got to start with us individually. And so the reason why this book is important is because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get us to level set to the goodness, the self-worth, the self-respect, the self-care, the self-regard, right? So that we can be better individually and then therefore be better for our smaller nucleuses, but then our communities, and then the communities then branch out into eventually the world. So this is very
like
much
a ripple.
Yeah, it's very much for me, and not even so much for me, like this is a part of my assignment.
Purpose.
Create a movement of this goodness. Again, the reason why it's called Rise is because there's some goodness in all of us, right? We just have to choose it more than not. On a daily basis, with our daily decisions, with the way that we treat others, the things that we say when we're triggered, right? The when we're affected, like this week was so heavy. How are we then still treating people when we feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders? When we're single and we would love to be married but have yet, and the struggles of all of that, like, and being an entrepreneur and carrying the load, and how am I you know, when I have those moments where I'm struggling or I'm triggered, how am I responding? Because I believe that when you react, it's not thought provoked. When you respond, it's thought provoked. So there's a difference between a reaction and a response. And when we respond more than we react, because that means we've thought about what we're doing. So again, what is it about my journey, my plight, my current circumstances that I then am able to, because I'm trying to embody being good, how am I able to translate that to anything that comes about?
Right.
Anything that I'm triggered by. So
I see. No, yeah. I mean, you're given perspective based off of how you came across, how you approached the topics as an author and as a interpreter, right? Because at the end of the day, this is based off of Proverbs, and so you interpreted it, you brought life to it based off of your experiences, and then you provided resources from that perspective. And I know you talked about sisterhood, and so we met through this sisterhood right here, the Women's Network at NBC Universal. That's how we met. At the time, you were working over on the Wilshire lot at E.
Yep.
And I was in Universal City, in Studio City on the main lot. And we mentioned value, knowing your value. And so this particular image, really represents for me a pivotal moment in my life. And I'm just going to get a little vulnerable and transparent here. There's not that many people on, so I feel a little bit comfortable. You know what I mean? It's like it's only 7 people watching. So
hey, 7 people.
But I'm going to get a little vulnerable here because I feel like you're the homie, and I feel like it's you got to tell our stories and we got to be authentic, right? And at this point in time in my life, I had just got out of a toxic relationship. I got pregnant, at 34 years old. I've never, been pregnant before in my life. You know what I mean? I had to make a decision. I knew once I started realizing I was in a toxic relationship, it was after, that moment of knowing that I was, bearing a child. And I had to make a decision based off of, okay, do I bring a child into a toxic relationship, a toxic environment with someone who has mental health, concerns? And, so it was like I was at this place of like accomplishing a lot. I was a leader, as a committee leader for the young, for the Women's Network. I was getting a lot of recognition in the company. This particular event, Know Yourself Expo, was me and a team of women who spearheaded this. Like this whole expo idea was my idea. It was my baby. And we brought a lot of amazing executives together for this. And at the time, I didn't know my value. I was that flown out to Philadelphia, to literally learn with Mika Brzezinski. Brzezinski from Morning Joe, to really learn and understand as women, how do we know our value? But at the time, it was from a professional standpoint. It was totally about negotiating salaries. It was about, interviewing, right? It's about positioning yourself as a woman, but then also a leader. And at the time, even though I was in the right rooms, I was like in shambles at home. And I was going through this with this like facade, or not even a facade. I would say going in this, getting this amazing insight and information, but not realizing how I could have taken that same energy and applied it to my personal life. And it wasn't until literally I was approaching 40, 2018 is when it really came full circle. No, 2019 and that was when I went on my divine feminine sensual energy journey. And that's when I realized that knowing your value and being a leader and being confident is one thing. But when you tap into that divine, that feminine energy that, really gives you that intuition that you talked about earlier, that's a whole nother level. Yeah. So when you started talking about that in chapter 2, tell us, what did being feminine, what did that represent? Because once you share your when you level set from your book, then I'll tell you what it meant through my journey, because I'm still on it.
Okay. Oh, I don't know that it's a journey that ends. I feel like it's I feel like it's like your life journey, right? I feel like the journey, I don't feel like it ends, because I feel like you're going to continue to learn and grow and evolve. And as you learn and grow and evolve and age and all of that, you're just going to keep going with that journey, the way the life journey is going. In the book, Be Feminine, I don't tap into the divine feminine energy too much. I talk about more of a little bit more on the etiquette, tapping into the opposite of male, because I believe that in this chaotic world we talked about earlier, I believe that the lines are skewed a little bit when it comes to male and female. And I'm not talking about, I'm just talking about, I'm a female, I need to exude my female energy. We ain't trying to complicate this. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily even talking about gender roles. I'm just talking about, I'm a female and I need to tap into my feminine energy.
Because all genders have both energies. Let's just be real. Correct. Energies are different than genders. So that's something correct that we have to learn and understand.
Correct. And really the point with that particular chapter was saying, hey, when it comes to the home, because remember this book is scripturally based upon this passage. So when it comes to being a wife, you need to be feminine, right? You need to be the opposite of what your husband is. So, and that's more of, so it was very, a little on the surface level in terms of that. It doesn't dig deep. So I'm totally interested in hearing what your journey was like. Again, mine was more just saying, hey, and this isn't about like somebody wearing the pants per se. In the
right. It's about polarity, yin and yang.
It's about, exactly. And I give some tips, but again, it's not into the whole, I didn't even say divine anything in the book, in terms of femininity. So you take the floor, I think.
Stacy.
No.
So,
I don't dive deep. I don't dive deep in that chapter.
Okay, so for me, I have a friend. She's a life coach. She's just like a, spiritual coach. Like, she's just somebody who's just amazing. And she started my locks. So she was starting my locks. And she was like, "And you just need to be more feminine. You just need to be more feminine. That's all." And I'm like, "What you mean? I'm a woman. I'm already feminine. Like, what are you talking about?" She was like, "No, and you just got to receive." She was like, "You just got to receive. Like, you're a go-getter. You make things happen. You're a producer. Like, you are you're the, bringing people together. You're always initiating." She was like, men, not all men, feel comfortable with that. And so when she first kind of, reached out to me and said that, it like really like kind of messed me up. Right. So then I'm Googling, right. If you guys was to see my Google search history, y'all would think I was crazy, but I was looking at all types of like feminine energy, this, that, and the third. And I realized through my research that what was missing is that I wasn't truly aligned with my sensuality, right? Which in turn didn't allow me to align with my sexuality, right? But then most importantly, back to what you said, which was really understanding what the difference was between feminine and masculine energy. Because when she first told me that, I just assumed, just because I was a woman, goes back to that gender assumption, right? That I'm automatically feminine. And so what I've learned on that journey through books, probably similar to yours, so it's all aligned, right? This is a book that I would have purchased during that, which I have purchased, right, during my journey. Here it is right here, actually. Right at arm's length, so I got my signed copy, y'all. So what I learned on that feminine, I call it my divine feminine sensual energy journey. All my friends know it. I know Teresa, I see you in the comments, girl. DFSE, I know you you heard me talk about that for a while. But I learned that when you talk about feminine energy, it goes back to what Stacy was saying. You know, if you want a masculine man, which most women believe that's what they want, right? Because that's what society tells us. You want a masculine man, takes care of business, who's powerful. Then you're going to have to be a feminine woman. And what that means is you're going to have to be receptive to him and let him lead. Because a man who's masculine isn't going to, if you're masculine with him and you're trying to tell him what to do, his mind is going to trigger a masculine reaction to another masculine energy, which is very much a conflict. And so I've had conversations with countless women and friends where it's like, if you deal with a man that has feminine energy, it's not that he's, you know, soft or that he's quote unquote, you know, gay, like they might think. It's just, he might be more attuned with his spiritual side. Mm-hmm. He might be a teacher. He might be an artist. Right. He might be somebody who's more in tune, an emotional kind of side, as opposed to just an aggressive kind of like go-getter, you know, asserter type of personality. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't stand in his manhood. It just means that what his innate qualities are more from a spiritual place, an intuitive place, and a creative place, which is the feminine energy.
And I find that you can add on to that list, because that list is great, compassionate and empathetic.
Yes.
They tend to be empaths if they're a little bit more on the softer side. Certainly romantic.
Yes. Yeah. The stuff that we want, right? Because we, as women, we want it all. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that I did learn from that is me being an asserter, you know, being in I've always been career driven. So that comes with a lot of masculine energy. So, you know, that lives in me. That's something that's dominated the majority of my life. And so, you know, it took me a lot of work and self-awareness, like you mentioned before. Self-care helped me also tap into that sensuality and that femininity. But another thing is you can negotiate. So if you know, sometimes your masculine man may be going through something and he has that feminine nature, you know, just at that moment. It's not always black and white. It's always a negotiation, you know, in that process, in that relationship. And it's just that openness and that communication. And I think also too, just me like not taking myself so serious, like just not taking things so serious and just being able to laugh or not responding to everything.
Not responding. And I like to say, I don't think I put it in the book, but being pink or being soft. No, I think I did mention in the book. But being even the way that our tone in which we talk, and the way that we present, right? Mm-hmm. It could be presenting with a question. It could be presenting with even a reaction. A response, because we want to think and respond and not just react. And it's that pause, the power in a pause, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the softest, nurturing side of us that needs to come out more, and that's part of being female that we bring to the table. You know, and tapping into that femininity, because again, like you said, you know. Yeah, I'm female, but I mean, and I actually grew up as a tomboy, because there were a lot of neighborhood boys around. I had more male cousins. All the girls were in my family, but I had a set of siblings that were quite younger than myself, and so there was just a lot of boys around. So I didn't really, like you, my journey didn't start. I would say the last 3 or 4 years, maybe, and not really realizing how much and how ingrained the tomboy was still. And then when you talk about being a producer, so you're negating things, you're delegating things, being a leader, and it's turning that off. It's kind of like turning the faucet on when you're at work, and then when you leave work, you turn the faucet off. And then it's being that soft, nurturing, compassionate, empathetic woman that a man needs, because because God would have created more men.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It'd just be a whole bunch of men walking around, not, you know, so we're important.
Exactly. Well, you know, this has been an amazing conversation, and I can't believe it's already been an hour.
I know.
So for you guys who are just meeting and being introduced to Stacy for the first time, please make sure you follow her. She's on Instagram. She's also on, and this is just her book. So this is her book Instagram. I wanted to really shout that out because I know that she's building that, and this is the space in which we're promoting her book. So definitely make sure you follow that. And you're managing your account, so all DMs you manage, right?
I do.
until she gets on the New York bestsellers list. So let's make sure let's get her there so that way she can. and if you guys want to learn more about the book, you can purchase it at her website, MissStacyLloyd.com. Yeah. So Stacy, before we go, I want to leave the floor to you.
Okay.
To say any final thoughts.
Sure. Can that also include a plug?
Of course.
Okay. So here's the thing. I from the bottom of my heart. One, I'm grateful. But I really just want people to become the best version of themselves. Especially for my women, because I believe that if we can become whole and complete within ourselves, that we can create very healthy families, healthy children, healthy husbands. And then we can really all of that is going to just spill over into our smaller nucleuses, our communities, and eventually the world. So the objective is for us as women to be whole. And that's just my heart's desire. I really, it'd be great to be on some list and to have awards for writing and things like that, because I thoroughly enjoy it. But my desire really is to impact people in a very positive way. So that's that. Thank you to those who were able to join the challenge, who have bought the book, who bought merchandise. I totally appreciate it. I do have a bit of an announcement.
Oh,
by the way, I am wearing can't see it.
Oh, let me go.
Oh no, okay. So I'm wearing a sweatshirt because it doesn't look like I'm wearing this I just appeared on camera looking all crazy. Women sweatshirt.
Cute.
That I had made a while ago. I'm gonna try to do that for the fall. But I would like to announce that the next merchandise that will be available are gonna be these canvas bags. I'm gonna start off slow. Eventually I'll start to branch off and do some more stuff. But it's basically a linen canvas bag. It's got the logo on it. And it has a black handle. So those will be on the website just in a couple days. Also having a sale on t-shirts. We're doing 20% off again for Mother's Day. So if you think your mother would like a t-shirt or t-shirt and book, definitely go to my website. There's a shop on the website. Do check out the website because I paid a lot of money for that website.
Right?
So enjoy it. But then there is a shop on there. So you'll see in the menu options up top. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for all the women who joined the 22-day challenge +1 or 22 +1 day challenge. I know some people are still reading. Again, the objective is for you to be a better you. So thank you, Angela.
Aww.
For having me.
Of course.
Call me Pastromi from LA.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for your community. You're doing such a great job at Uncorked and Cultured. Definitely you all follow her. There's all kind of things from wine culture to all things. Angela, you can give your own spiel because I'm not going to do it anyway. Definitely follow her. She's a mover and shaker. She is definitely she's an innovator in this community. Innovative. And and I'm happy to be able to call you sister friends.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so I totally appreciate the opportunity and then bridging our communities together. So definitely follow her on all social media platforms. Adventurous Ange is her personal. Definitely follow her community, Uncorked and Cultured. So thank you. That's it.
Oh, thank you so much, Stacy. Yes, thank you so much for being here and, you know, sharing space with me. You know, I'm always grateful, and I love when we get to catch up and, you know, talk and collaborate. So let's definitely, you know, keep in touch as always and figure out how we can continue to push each other forward and, you know, and be examples, you know, for being good women.
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to, thank everybody who joined us today. You know, I just want to end with this last kind of thought, because I felt like it was I forgot to mention this before, and you know, when it comes to like walking into my divine feminine energy, one of the things that I really did, which kind of goes back to what Stacy mentioned at the beginning of the interview, was being intentional. Right? She mentioned being a good woman is intentional. It's a decision you make each and every day. And for me, my decision was not just being a good woman, but also like what to be divine, feminine, sensual energy, right? So that meant that whether it was buying the shirt. So if anybody knows me, I would typically not wear lace or ruffles or flowers or pink, but I was like, okay, Ange, what would your divine, feminine, sensual energy self say? And it told me to wear this ruffled shirt today, y'all. So this is what I'm doing just for today, you know, and this is something that I did like for the past 2-3 years is literally every decision I made. If I was indecisive, I brought it back to divine, feminine, sensual energy. So I challenge you ladies to, when you are at a crossroad, to figure out what would I need to do to be a good woman, to be a part of the rise of the good woman. And challenge your friends, you know, challenge your friends, share with them what you've learned, because let me tell you, I've shared what I've learned through my journey, and I felt like I've inspired women. I felt like I've shared books, and I'm going to share this book with my friends as another resource, because as you know, ladies, we're always looking for knowledge. We want to be our best selves. So, you know, whether you want to gift this to someone or, you know, share the lessons that you've learned, I think that would be great. And of course, you can always share this interview, right? Because that's, you know, creating community, and that's keeping the circle strong. And so before we leave, I just want to share with you guys how you can follow us. You know, Stacy mentioned how, you know, we're here on Instagram, on Facebook. We're also on YouTube, but you can follow us on Instagram as well. We're also on Twitter. And please, please, please share, spread the love, let your friends and folks know about us. And then if you want to keep in contact with me and you get in touch, there goes my Instagram. Adventurous Ange is my personal. Uncorked and Cultured is the one for the business. So thank you again for joining us, and have an amazing weekend.